And I just wanted to share with you here tonight what I hope is a turning point for you as a mom going through estrangement. And today I just want to spend some time talking about some of the two of the biggest points that I think are important for moms to navigate first and foremost when navigating estrangement or even just a difficult relationship, with your child. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sally Harris. I'm going live here on YouTube on my channel. I'm a mom coach. I specialize in parental estrangement, specifically with moms, because that's me. I'm a mom. I navigated this myself, and I am a founder of a coaching program which supports moms of estranged adult children. So, just to start off here, I just want to let you know that I didn't plan on ever becoming a guide for estranged moms, but God had other plans for me, and my mentor, Rory Vaden, says, your most powerful positioned, I'm sorry, your best positioned to serve the person you once were. And that was me. So I was you. And so I understand what you're going through. And, I walked this road with my daughter for over a decade. And when her life spiraled, so did mine, which was a very long journey. And not to say your journeys are going to be that long. Some of you I know are navigating even longer than I did. And so I'm glad you're here tonight. I hope you're able to spend some time watching this and maybe bring a notepad and so forth. And hopefully you'll glean some information out of this. So three of the things, firstly, the problems that moms are facing that I see all the time is that we're living in survival mode. So we are doing self-preservation literally. And there's constant guilt and fear and people pleasing. And so I want you to remember that the root of your anxiety that you're experiencing or the root of the worry, it's all fear. And the guilt, all of this is the shame, all of that, the people pleasing, these are all cycles that we find ourselves in. And then thirdly is the disconnection from identity of who you are besides being a mom. A lot of women don't even know who they are anymore. In fact, they'll come to me and say, I don't even know what I like anymore. Don't know who I am anymore. So that's why support is so crucial. So you're not weak, you're carrying a lot, and healing takes help. We can't do this alone. It takes a village, right? It takes a village to raise kids, and it takes a village to navigate through something like this. And there's two epidemics that the first one, estrangement epidemic, depending on who you ask, some say 1 in 4, some say 1 in 3. Families are estranged from a child, which is so sad. And it's getting, more prevalent. And the other is loneliness, believe it or not. This was I think it was 2022, and it was more of a Surgeon General warning of loneliness being an epidemic is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So that goes to show you how it affects our health, right? So my turning point, everything shifted when I realized that healing had to start with self-awareness of myself, not by fixing my daughter, not by fixing anyone else. And so for me, I hit that point where I had to be okay, even if she wasn't. And so my life was being destroyed during this time, but it wasn't my daughter doing the destroying. I was allowing that to shift my life that much, where I became an alcoholic, right? I was 70 pounds overweight. I was very unhealthy. But you have to remember the healing starts with the self-awareness. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. This here is just a overview of my coaching program. And I share this with you because there's 9 pillars I believe that each mom needs to go through for healing, empowerment, and self-discovery. And tonight we're going to just touch on 2 of these because that's all we have time for. So the 2 top pillars of change that I want to share with you is self-awareness and self-accountability. So let's go in. So self-awareness, you can't change what you won't name, right? And this is the first step to real freedom for yourself. And it's recognizing, your own patterns without shame. And for me personally, it was the drinking, the overeating, allowing the enemy really to have that hold on me of fear so badly that the depression and anxiety and all of these things, I just allowed it to just take me over. And that is where I see so many moms when they first come to me. And that's why we need to dig in and see what exactly is going on. How is this affecting your life? Because this is where we start, right? So you also have to remember that the story that you assign to whatever it is going to make a big difference in how you process it. Because we can speak life or death over our life. We can speak life or death over our kids. So it's really important. And we need to notice what stories are we telling ourselves? Are you constantly saying it's all my fault, or they're never going to forgive you, or you must have failed like so badly that that's why they left? So those, you have to be very mindful of that. And this here is the B.E.T framework. And this is something that I bet this will help you. So if not one, two, or maybe all three of these may be affecting your world. So we've got B is for boundaries, E is for enabling, T is for triggers, right? So these are very common things that moms deal with that need to have a lot of self-awareness, have an honest look at, and then they're able to move forward. So let's start with B for boundaries, and they are the guardrails of peace. So if you're defining what is and what is not acceptable in your relationship, that's a boundary. That's the first thing you do. Figuring out what is not working, right? So is it disrespect? Is it finances? Is it, if we move on here, protecting your emotional space and energy? Is it your time? Are they expecting, you to be available 24/7? All of this kind of things. And then being able to say no without guilt. But that's hard. It's hard. But you have to remember that these are not walls. They're fences or gates. These boundaries, they're not forever. Sometimes we have to put some boundaries around people. Sometimes we have to put them around places, things, right? Substances, right? All of the above. And it doesn't mean it's forever in regards to, even if I know a lot of moms who have come to me lately who are like, I'm the one that needs to kind of walk away from my child. Not because I don't love them, but the disrespect is so grand that they don't know what else to do, and it's destroying them. And so technically that boundary is healthy for that mom and that child, just to the relationship in general. Because when boundaries are missing, that's when you feel disrespected. You feel so drained or even invisible. And, you say yes to avoid conflict constantly, right? And your fear is losing your child if you speak up. And it's very valid, and I understand that. But these are the things that we have to take an honest look at. So if your child struggles with addiction, mental health concerns, or a lack of independence, their failure to launch, as some people call it, any of those kinds of things, or if they're doing emotional manipulation to you, or if there is verbal abuse, maybe it's disrespect. Maybe it doesn't seem quite that bad, or it's consistent overstepping. If that's the case, and maybe it hasn't gotten that bad yet, this is the perfect time to put those boundaries up, right? And you don't have to call them boundaries. You can call them personal limits. You can call them whatever you want. But these are the things, if this is something that your child is struggling with in your relationship and it's affecting your relationship, then that's proof that the boundaries are needed. And just remember that boundaries are not rejection. They're protection for both of you. Okay? So E stands for enabling, and that's when helping actually hurts. So doing what they can and should do for themselves. And usually enabling, when a mom is enabling, it's because there's guilt, fear, or over responsibility. But what's happening is we're not allowing them to grow. And then they don't have the ability, they don't have the skills to do these things on their own. And then that keeps them stuck and you exhausted, right? And so that's not good for either one of you. Now, granted, most kids don't want to be enabled, right? True or false? Most of them are so used to it that they don't know how to function without it, which is where I would never want your kids to get to, of course. But then there's times where moms are enabling more, like when they're a little bit younger, and then they just don't know how to cut that cord. And the kids start to expect it, right? So it's kind of entitlement. All right, let's go on. So some warning signs is that you're always bailing them out, whether it's emotionally, you're constantly rescuing, or maybe it's financially. And they avoid the consequences because you shield them. So they're not even experiencing any natural consequences, like in real life, not just parental consequences, family, but it could be the law, it could be their work, you know, maybe they're not paying their bills, that therefore they may not have a car or a place to live, right? So they're not having to experience any of these consequences because you're taking care of it. So your well-being is suffering, but you keep giving, right? So it's just, that's a warning sign where you really know that it's definitely time to make some shifts. So if your child does struggle with that, like I mentioned, the substance abuse, or if they're refusing treatment in that case, right? And it's really affecting the relationship, and you're not even sure how to manage that anymore. Maybe there's blame or avoidance or emotional dependency. You know, there's no growth, change, or accountability for them. And not really something you want to think about much, but a lot of moms, I do have to say, what would they do if something happened to you or you and your husband? How would they manage if they've never learned how to take care of themselves and be responsible for things? And no mom wants that for their kid. So keep that in mind. So love doesn't mean rescuing. Sometimes love means letting go. And then lastly, the T stands for triggers. So triggers are clues that something needs healing. Okay, we all know what triggers are. We all feel triggered at times, but it usually shows up as an emotional overreaction, which is tied to something from the past for most of us. And if you look at it like it's a signal rather than a sign of weakness, right? It's your body's way of saying something's still hurting, and you can navigate through these things, but you have to identify them. Again, that's part of self-awareness. And so they usually show up with people, places, or things. So it might be certain people that trigger you. It might be family. It might be places that maybe you're being triggered because you're going to a place where you used to hang out with your son or daughter. You used to go to this restaurant or this store or something like that. Or maybe it's an item. Maybe it's something in your house. Maybe it's something that was in their room, right? Um, and then it might be social media. Maybe you're doing the comparison trap where you're comparing people you know and your friends to what their family looks like, or even comparing yourself to people you don't know, right? So the silence from your kids, or the distance, if there's no contact, or if there is contact and you're getting that disrespect, the harsh words, those kinds of things, those can be very triggering too. And when you start feeling, you can feel it come on, right? It's the sadness, it's the anger, it's the guilt, or the anxiety just shows up. You know that that's a trigger, right? So healing is going to happen for you when you surrender. We have to be able to we have to be able to surrender. We have to be able to navigate our own and regulate our own emotions. Many of you know that your kids need to do that, and I think every human needs to learn how to do that, because we've all had stuff that's happened. But when you surrender that, then you can pause and choose your response, and you're not in reactive mode anymore, because you don't want to be in reactive mode. Nobody does. So you stop assigning your worth to your child's choices. So your worth, one of those other pillars I mentioned, self-worth, that's a huge one that I deal with and help moms through, because you're assigning your worth to the fact that maybe they can't keep a job, or maybe they are in addiction. And so we need to stop assigning that to their choices, because their choices, they're adults. We're not talking, 15-year-olds here. And so they are making some choices, and some of these things they're stuck in. Definitely. Absolutely stuck in. And there's a difference between that helping and enabling, right? So, of course, you want to help them. So, you're not overreacting, you're uncovering. And so, keep that in mind because you're uncovering truth, right? Um, when you feel triggers, it's really uncovering what needs more attention. And that's okay. And regardless of your age, none of us arrive this side of heaven. Like none of us are going to be perfect, and that's okay. So it's better to work through some of these things regardless of your age. It'll benefit all of your relationships, not just your kids. So some questions I want you to ask yourself. So if you do have a notebook and you want to jot these down, feel free. But what is one story that you're still believing that may not be true? So a lot of moms will navigate this time away with their from their kids, and maybe it's just a roller coaster ride and it's all these ups and downs, or maybe you have zero contact. Either way, what's the story that you're still believing that may not be true? And I want to encourage you to ask yourself, do you have any proof of it? So like I said, we assign those stories. What proof do you have that this story is true? And then what beliefs do you have about yourself that are not serving you? So would love to hear from you on those. So back to the B.E.T, the awareness of the boundaries, awareness of enabling, and awareness of triggers are really, really healing. And that healing doesn't begin with fixing your child, it begins with self-awareness. And so when we can kind of get that through our heads, and again, this is not to put the blame all on you. It's certainly not. It takes two. Um, and regardless, it's important that you can benefit from all of these skills in all of your other relationships. It's not just about your kids. So the secondly is once we become aware, then we can become accountable and figuring out what are we accountable for, right? And then that's when change starts happening for us personally. So self accountability means taking ownership of your thoughts, your behaviors, your patterns, and your responses. So sometimes they're painful, unfair, or confusing, right? It's not about blaming yourself, like I said. It's about leading yourself with integrity in everything and just taking an honest look at things. We all have things we could probably make a list on what we could improve. And so, but really identifying like what is within your control. What are you responsible for in regards to your kids? What do you need to change in you for peace to return in your life? And another big question that I ask moms all the time is, who do you want to become when they return? So maybe you have no contact and maybe you are working on yourself. But I would encourage you to ask yourself, who do you want to become? Because whoever you become is we want that to benefit the relationship. So when they come back, you can have even a better relationship with them. So a lot of times moms will say, I've done everything that I can. Why won't they change? Or that's not the way I raised them, right? I think every mom has thought of those because you think, am I not enough reason for you to change? Right? But that's not the way I raised them. That's a huge one. But I want you to remember you're not the only influence on your kids. You're a big influence, but you're not the only one. And so here we're talking about adults, of course. So some key truths is that I want to teach you is you can't heal what you won't acknowledge. So again, if you're constantly focused on their behavior and nothing to do with you, you're going to miss the whole opportunity to heal. And you can't change their reaction. And this is in regards to, whether you're reacting or responding. If you were to tell yourself, I can't change their reaction, but I can examine why I always respond the same way. And again, that probably goes back to the triggers. But your triggers are yours to own. Everyone's responsible for their own. And when you're constantly triggered, like I said, that's a signal, not a flaw. It's a message. So how is this wound affecting you? How's it touching your life? And how have you been avoiding your own healing? is something I would ask yourself. And then number 3 is patterns repeat until you break them. So all these cycles that we can find ourselves on with our kids, and there's a lot of similarities in them for a lot of moms. But if you're always overextending and you're enabling or you're walking on eggshells, I want you to ask yourself, what belief keeps you repeating the cycle? Where can you choose something different? Because the moms that I serve, the most beautiful thing that I see is when they find themselves on one of those cycles, and especially if they're still in contact and they're on this roller coaster ride, and the mom is like realizing, I don't want to do this anymore. Like this pattern has to stop. And it needs to stop with us because someone needs to do it. And the kid, your son or daughter is probably not going to be the one to do it right now, more than likely. So when moms jump off and change the way they react, change the way they're not overextending, they're not walking on eggshells, they stop enabling, it all shifts. It shifts for everyone. So ask yourself this: what emotions or habits do you need to surrender to God to move forward? It's an important one. So, what habits do you need to surrender to God to move forward? And that was a major turning point for me, is surrendering my addiction to alcohol. I had tried to quit all on my own for many, many, many years, many times, and couldn't do it. So I stopped trying to quit, stopped telling anyone I was trying to quit because I was not successful. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter, because it wasn't, I used to believe in willpower. I don't really believe in that anymore because I definitely had the will, but I needed him. And so he was able to break that for me. Another story for another day, but um, I would just encourage you, whatever that is, and maybe it's an emotion, maybe it's not a habit. And then also list 3 things that you can start or stop doing to move your life in the right direction. So this is the turning point where you realize that change starts with you, and that truly is the truth, right? That's truly the truth. And I want you to know that I have something special to share with you tonight. This is something that I've been waiting for a long time to be able to share with you guys, with my audience here, but I want to just encourage you and invite you to join me to the Rise Retreat, which is going to be held in October 2025, October 10 and 11. I'll be giving you all the details here. It is in Sarasota, Bradenton, Florida area. Actually, it's in Ellenton, which is very nearby town. But we are going to be meeting on October 11th and 12th, which is a Friday. We're going to be meeting all day, Saturday, half a day. And this will be the third retreat that I've had here for moms. And it has just been the most amazing experiences. We've already had one this year. There was a high demand for me to do another one in 2025, which is why I'm doing this. And for the first time ever, I get to introduce you to my daughter. She is going to be doing a live Q&A with the moms there at the retreat, and you can hear her perspective after years of estrangement and now healing through faith and how God changed our family. And so I'm really excited for those of you moms coming to be able to meet my sweet girl. Very excited about that. And so this weekend together has been so powerful each and every time. It is just an amazing weekend for you as a mom. So if you're a mom that needs to be surrounded by women who get it, and there was no judgment, right? I will be encouraging you and teaching you, and we will have other guest speakers also who will be offering some insight and tools. But this is really a time to make new friends. This is a time to, I say, rest, laugh, cry, and connect. I don't know how much rest you're going to get, but lots of laughs. You might cry, but you're going to make a lot of connections, which is really fun. And so here at the Rise Retreat, what you're going to experience is R is for release, okay, RISE. We're going to focus on release. We're going to let go of that guilt and the fear and the weight that you've been carrying. That is the surrender and the strength, right? That's where the surrender and the strength meets. I is for insight, to gain clarity about your emotions, your patterns, and what healing looks like for you, because it might look a little bit different than someone else. And S is for strength, stepping into that emotional resilience, healthy identity, and a deep sense of peace rooted in faith. And then last but not least, expectancy. And I want you to know that you can begin again with a renewed hope for your life, your future, and the relationships that matter. And so this here is, you can contact me for more info, but there's 3 airports here that are closest nearby. So you've got Tampa, Sarasota, Bradenton, or St. Pete, Clearwater. So those would be the 3. I do have a whole guide that if you want to email us, we can share that with you. It has a lot of restaurants and beaches and just a location guide for you. But I just want to share a couple testimonials. Lori, it was really fun. I met her in April when she came to the retreat, and I had never met Lori before. She found me on YouTube, connected, and she was able to connect with other moms that could really relate, right? She learned a lot from the workshops, and she said she feels more empowered now to carry on. So she was a brand new friend. And one of the other moms here, she is a current client still, but she had an amazing weekend as well. And she just loved, our testimony, my testimony, but also just she was able to meet all these women that I serve in my group coaching program, and she got to meet some new ladies as well. So it was a beautiful time for her. So I just want to offer this to you. So it's early bird special offer for the first 20 moms that join. And so we will be giving you all the information for how to claim your spot. And so for the first 20 moms, it's $299, and there will be a coupon code. It's RISE 2025. You'll see that here. But we'll put that in the notes as well. And so regular price is $399. So after the first 20, then it does go to $399. It's October 11 and 12th in Ellenton, Florida, which is on the Gulf Coast for those of you that are not local. So limited spots are available for sure, but you can register today to reserve your space, or you can email us at team@sally-harris.com. We'll put all that in the notes below. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much for your time, and look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to meeting so many of you at the retreat, and I just want to thank you again. So God bless. See you soon.